So I just wanted to say hi and ask everyone this question that, I'm not sure, but, there's this assumption, as I've taken it, in the culture that if you're like really rich, somehow there's some sort of merit to you being really rich. Now, I know that, cynically, as Americans, we all know that's not necessarily true, but we know that there's also this idea there that, let me give you an example. When I was in university, the dean of students really didn't like me very much. And I'm not just being, whatever, but he really didn't like me very much. I mean, I never did anything. It was just that I was always in these situations that none of the other students were ever in, and always asking questions, and none of the other students ever asked, and always complaining about things, and none of the other students knew were there. And so he just, after a while, he just didn't like me very much, and thought I was a troublemaker. And even though this was a radical college with a liberal arts degree designed to question the establishment and create a better world, but apparently wasn't really questioning the establishment. It was sort of like being a part of the establishment, but going more toward the positive parts and not really acknowledging the negative parts while we tried to make it better, rather than like, this is bullshit. Okay, so, anyway, that was sort of the differences we had, and I was all for like constructive change, but I could never get anyone to talk about anything to be constructive about. So anyway, we were there, and they were like, put this on pause, okay? The founder of that place said, challenge every injustice, no matter how great or small. So I took that to heart, and when I saw injustice, I was a journalist, okay, so I could tell facts. I did journalism for a very long time, never had any real problems. So, if you look at it that way, when I complained about things that were actually things that other students acknowledged were problems, I got a talk with like one of our senior aristocratic members who said, David, why are you always causing so much trouble? I mean, you could have just talked with someone in private about this. You didn't need to cause a scene in front of the whole school. And I was like, well, I thought it needed to be discussed, and I thought it needed to be like a protest against it, because after all, we're supposed to, combat every little injustice. That's what the founder of this college supposedly said. And he says, yes, but you're not the founder of this college. And see, that's exactly what I'm talking about, okay? There's this idea that somehow, because you're a little higher up in the food chain, you must somehow have more merit. And that's what gets me back to my dean of students here, who one day when I was in there, because I was living in the dormitory, and happened to be a checkout time that was of such and such a time. And then I applied for an on-campus job with the PR department and got it, and was told that I was to report, and so it happened exact same time I was supposed to check out. So I went to the Res Life people, and I told them I need an extension on my checkout time because, as it so happens, I have to, Well, I don't know what happened, but the Res Life people took that as me asking for favoritism, where they made me a scathing notice to the dean about how every other student had checked out on time, and here I was asking for special treatment to check out at a different time. And so they fined me like over $100 for that, even though I went ahead of time. I did it as soon as I knew, and I showed them the notice for work, okay? It was on their own campus. And it wasn't in question because I couldn't ask work to reschedule, because I was meeting people for whom I was going to give a tour of the entire campus, and they'd come from out of the country. So you see, it was very strange, okay? It was that kind of thing I've experienced all my life. And, I've had quite a bit of patience with, I think quite a bit of more patience than any of you most likely could ever have had and not have been a coward. And so anyway, so I'm with the dean of students talking about this, and he tells me, David, you made a cost-benefit decision. You had to choose between, well, am I going to, look good for work, or am I going to obey the dormitory rules? And you chose not to obey the dormitory rules, and ergo, you were fined. And, I was just sitting there, and I said, you do realize, with all due respect, that makes absolutely no sense, because as you can see, I'm trying to promote your college on one hand, but and it was just, there was nothing I could do about it except make your college look bad and make me, it's just, you made a cost-benefit decision. Let's not take it out of the black and white arena that it needs to be in, David. And, I'm trying to say, like, well, he says, listen, this is what he leans forward. We know that you were one of the first students to be admitted to this school. But just so you know, in the future, being admitted to this school, now that I'm dean, is going to be based on merit. And he leaned back. He said, okay, it's not going to be based on, oh, we think he knew this or that. It's going to be based on merit, because that's what it should be based on. Now, I'm not reviewing this fine. Learn something about life. He didn't say that exactly, but, it was just this, now leave. And so this is what was going on in this college, designed to teach, fairness and future justice for, enlightened world leaders. So anyway, I said, I left there, and of course, everyone else, it was like one of the, I was like actually working in college. Everyone else was just going, oh, it's so cool. Anyway, so that all said, I remember that. Because it was trotted out in my face, okay? And, I graduated with honors, and many other students who everyone often said had a great deal of merit didn't graduate with honors, all right? So anyway, that said, I look at Donald Trump, and he acts so elite, and he has so much money, and I just want to say the same thing. I don't see the merit, okay? I don't see the merit. I mean, he was having this big speech on the UN, where he basically called, the leader of North Korea Rocket Man, and said we were just going to annihilate it from the face of the earth, and sounded like some sort of primitive Neanderthal, was spouting about loser terrorists this and loser that. Obviously has no idea about diplomatic speech or the intricacies of the word, all right, the word, has no idea how to, like, say things fundamentally meaningful about people without using punitive, childish kindergarten sandbox language, okay? And that's about the level they apparently think most of the American people are at. You notice all the polite applause around the UN? He's too stupid to even know what that is, okay? I mean, I'm all for let's go out and get him, okay? But, if it's not coupled by any kind of intelligence, intuition, or sensibilities, then it's just a clown, okay? And so I'm asking you, okay, all these people living in New York City, living in Beverly Hills, living in somewhere in the middle of nowhere because they were born famous and they want to get away from it all, and none of you want to contribute to the world. None of you think you can contribute to the world, maybe. But certainly, every one of you is just obsessed with taking care of themselves, because if you do anything, everyone around you is going to abandon you instantly. And I'm asking, where's the merit? Where's the merit? Merit comes from, fighting or standing or trying to achieve something, from discipline and focus, okay, and from having principles, and somehow your intelligence forwarded those principles. But if no one has any goals that they're going to, then how can anyone have any merit? Okay, if it's just a matter of who has the most gold and who was born into that gold and who had the opportunity because they had a lot of gold, and to make it seem like they actually did something, when in truth it was just a randomness of where they were born, and they don't have any merit because the archetype of them all just made a living fool out of himself in Technicolor, and he doesn't even know it. How is that merit?